Look at a weather app and a road map at the same time. Pick any day with heavy rain in the east. You will see storms slide along the long mountain spine. You will see fog bunch up in hollows before sunrise. You will see creeks jump from calm to angry in minutes. Now, look at the towns on the map. They sit in tight lines along valleys. They sit where roads can fit. They sit where rail lines once fit. Then look at the west on the same map. Big open basins, long straight highways, high peaks that stick up like teeth. People argue about what all this means. They say the east is mild and the west is real mountains. But that is a surface read. The east can be sneaky. The slopes look gentle, yet water can hit fast. The ground can swallow rain into old cracks. A narrow hollow can turn into a moving wall of water. Meanwhile, the west looks harsh and honest. You see the steepness. You see the cliffs. You expect danger. The east hides it in plain sight. For decades, nobody could figure out why the old eastern range creates a kind of tough, hidden survival world, while the younger western peaks create a loud, obvious one. We did not know why the rounded land still controls roads, jobs, and risk right now. People living in these older hills feel judged as if they chose the limits of their place. But the mystery of why your town sits in a narrow slot is finally over. Now we know exactly why this happens. The Eastern Mountain Belt is far older than the Rockies. Think of it like a truck. A newer truck still has shiny paint and sharp edges. An old truck has worn paint, but the frame is proven. The Eastern Range is about 480 million years old. That is 6 times older than the Rockies. The evidence is clear in dated minerals and layered rock. This older range once stood as high as the tallest mountains on Earth. They were once taller than the Himalayas. Over 480 million years, wind and rain wore them down until only the toughest rocks stayed as ridges. That is long before dinosaurs existed. It is before trees or even fish walked on land. Back then, all continents were joined into one giant landmass. These mountains have survived through continent collisions and ocean openings. They are still standing after almost 500 million years. Rocks show these mountains were once located near the equator. Pennsylvania was a tropical place when coal formed. This happened about 300 million years ago. That was 299 million years before any person arrived in America. The Eastern Mountains have outlasted every other range. They are like a steel frame that stays after the walls are gone. When you drive through Pennsylvania today, you notice rivers cutting straight through mountains. This happens because of forces from hundreds of millions of years ago. Look out your window at the long ridges. They look like giant sleeping animals. You see roads pinned to creek bottoms because there is no room on the sides. Your town sits where it does because of geology that is still there right now. This is not just a history lesson, it is about your world today. In the West, towns sit in wide basins. The space feels bigger. But in the East, you are always going up or down. That constant grind shapes your fuel use and travel time. The land forces how you live. You might think the story of these hills was finished, but the land keeps showing patterns that need a real answer. Why are ridges so long and straight? Why do rivers cut through ridges instead of going around them? Why do some soils grow thick forests but not good crops? These are not random. They come from rock layers that got bent and stacked. Geologists wanted to find the truth. They did not just look at the surface. They drilled deep into the earth. They took core samples from the rock. They wanted to know which came first, the rivers or the mountains. The old theory said mountains form first, then rivers show up and pick easy routes. That feels right because water likes the easy way. But the core samples broke that simple story. Rivers in the east cut through hard ridges in ways they should not. If the ridges were already tall walls, the water would have turned. But the water went straight through. Geologists from Penn State and Virginia Tech studied these cuts. They worked through solid rock for years. They documented every layer they found. They used radioactive dating to find the age of the minerals. This works like a geological clock. Uranium inside the rock breaks down into lead at a known rate. By measuring how much lead is there, they can tell exactly how old the rock is. This is not a guess. It is a measurement done in labs. In the late 1980s, a team from Virginia Tech studied deep river cuts. They looked at gorges with walls over 2,500 feet tall. That is like stacking 150 houses on top of each other. It is twice as tall as most city skyscrapers. The crews spent summers mapping these layers. They found that the river paths were much younger than the ridges, yet the rivers still sliced through the old stone. This was a huge breakthrough. It meant the rivers were already there when the land started to rise. Imagine a saw blade staying still while a piece of wood is pushed up into it. The river is the saw. The rising land is the wood. The water cut down just as fast as the ground rose up. This explains why the river gaps are so narrow and deep. These gaps became the only doors for roads and rail lines. If those gaps were not there, your town might not exist. The entire settlement pattern of the region would be different. The research also looked at the soil. Long wear from rain strips away easy nutrients. In these hills, the soil is often thin and full of rock bits. This is because the rock that survives is hard and breaks down very slow. Plants had to learn to live on less. They got efficient. You see thick woods in some spots and bare rock on the spines. The land created tiny cool rooms in the hollows. These are places where cool air gets trapped. You can find plants there that usually live much farther north. They are leftovers from the Ice Age. About 12,000 years ago, ice sheets a mile thick covered the north. When the ice melted, the rivers settled into the paths we see today. That was 10,000 years before the pyramids were built. Every piece of evidence was starting to fit together. But the scientists needed one more thing to be sure. They needed a smoking gun. The real proof came from matching rocks across the Atlantic Ocean. Geologists found identical rock layers in Scotland and in our eastern range. They are the same type of rock. They are the same age. They contain the same minerals. There is only one way this could happen. These mountains were part of the same range before the ocean opened up. Scotland and the East were joined together. 3 different labs tested the rocks. They all found perfect matches. This confirmed the mountains were created by a massive collision of continents. The ground buckled and rose. Then, the continents drifted apart and the ocean filled the gap. This is not a theory anymore. It is a proven fact. The math and the chemistry all point to the same answer. The case is closed. Now we can see the full pattern. The old Eastern Range is a survival world because it has been sorted by time. The soft layers of rock wore away first. The hard layers stayed behind to form the long ridges. This is why the land looks rounded, but is still hard to cross. You think a ridge looks easy, then you hit a steep wall. You think a creek is safe, then it rises fast after a storm. This happens because narrow valleys funnel water into tight paths. The land hides its secrets in old cracks and hidden weak zones. In some places, water dissolves limestone underground. This creates sinkholes that can open without warning. The West has obvious dangers like cliffs and rockfalls. The East has subtle dangers that require local knowledge. You have to respect the small changes in the land. You have to watch the sky because the hills trap the weather. Geography is permanent on human timescales. These mountains were here 480 million years ago. They will be here another 480 million years. Industries come and go. People move in and out. But the land does not change. Your region's geology determined how it developed. It set where the roads could go. It decided where the coal and iron would sit. That is not a failure of the people who live there. It is physics written in stone. Understanding the permanent landscape makes economic changes feel less personal. It is just how geographic forces shape where humans live and work. Every region has strengths and weaknesses from forces millions of years old. When people criticize your home, they are criticizing the rock under your feet. You cannot change the geology. You can only learn to live with it. The evidence stack is now complete. We have the mapping, the drilling, and the lab clocks. We have the matched rocks from across the sea. The rivers cutting through the rising land prove the timeline. We know that the land was once tropical and sat on the equator. We know the mountains were once as tall as any on the planet. The puzzle pieces fit together perfectly. You are not living in a lesser region. You are living on an old, proven landscape. It is a place that rewards those who understand its rules. The mystery of why the East is shaped this way is solved. The geographic patterns we see today were determined by ancient forces beyond human control. This is not about human decisions. It is about physics written in stone. The case is settled. Core samples and radioactive dating proved this formation occurred through continental collision, creating the boundary that still controls how water flows and where development occurs today. Next time you see this pattern, you're witnessing that ancient geological force in action. The same processes that shaped the land millions of years ago are still working today, just too slowly to notice in a human lifetime. Understanding these permanent geological forces helps explain why certain patterns exist in the landscape. The geographic features we observe are not random. They are the direct result of ancient processes that science has now fully documented and explained. Geography is permanent on human timescales. These geological forces were active hundreds of millions of years ago and remain active today. Industries change and populations shift, but the underlying landscape stays constant.